The Bills' defense held the Arizona Cardinals' high-flying attack in check, relatively speaking, for most of the day. It wasn't until the Cardinals realized that the Bills were playing their nickel defense against the Cardinals' heavier personnel groupings, which mainly consist of 12 personnel in Kliff Kingsbury's air raid offense. The Cardinals used 12 personnel 31% of the time coming into the Week 10 matchup, and their tendency is to run the ball 65% of the time. Their percentage rate for this game held true at 31%, or 22 plays, but it took them nearly a half to realize that if they stuck to their run rate, they may have had better success, especially early. Buffalo kept their nickel defense in against 12 personnel because they typically match that grouping with their big nickel package, but their big nickel defender, safety Dean Marlowe, was held out of the game due to COVID contact tracing. In the first half, the Cardinals ran 12 personnel 9 times. They passed it 4 times, completed 2 passes at 4.3 yards per attempt, and surrendered 1 sack. The 2 tight ends were mainly utilized as blockers on screen passes in the first half, such as this wide receiver screen to Larry Fitzgerald that is shut down by the pursuit of Tremaine Edmunds and Trent Murphy. Also on this 4-strong formation that the Cardinals showed a little bit later, the home team aligns their 2 tight ends to the field in a trip set, hoping to outflank the Bills' defense. But Jerry Hughes is assigned to peel with the running back so that the defense doesn't get outnumbered. Murray sees it and decides not to throw it, and the Bills' defense rallies to register a sack. The Cardinals registered modest gains on the ground out of 12 personnel in the first half, carrying the rock 5 times at 4.2 yards per attack, such as this 4-yard gain by Kenyon Drake. Addison forces the give, and Drake gets into the linebacker level. But that wouldn't stop them from relying on this personnel grouping and philosophy in the second half. On the first play of the second drive in the third quarter, the Cardinals attempt to run a power run, the same play they ran for 7 yards in the first half. The Bills aligned in a nickel underfront with the safety on the line of scrimmage on that play, but this time they switch it up. They send out a nickel overfront with Taron Johnson on the line of scrimmage to the weak side. Watch AJ Klein read this play. Hughes fights the tight ends at the point of attack as Klein stays tight to the double team. He then wrong arms the puller to maintain inside leverage to bring down the back for only a 3-yard gain. Late in the third quarter, with the Cardinals only trailing by 4, Murray shows why he is one of the most dangerous players with the ball in his hands. He scampers 28 yards to quickly get this drive started and flip not only the field position in their favor, but the momentum. The Bills are once again in their overfront with the 3-technique defensive tackle Ed Oliver to the strength of the formation. On the snap, the Cardinals run zone read. Addison charges a running back and forces Murray to keep it. Cornerback Daryl Worley is a force player on the edge, and he has the quarterback on this read option. Worley was recently signed and only in the game because of the injury to Dane Jackson. Both are depth players who would normally be behind Josh Norman, who tested positive for COVID, and fellow corner Levi Wallace, who was held out because of contact tracing. Worley is unable to contain Murray, and he finally is able to gain yardage via the zone read. The Cardinals hurry to the line and run the same exact play. The Bills match it with the same defensive front, but utilize a different coverage and play call altogether. This matters because it changes the run responsibilities for the zone read. On the snap, Addison slow plays the mesh, while Klein attacks out wide if Murray were to keep it. Murray gives it to Drake as Taron Johnson kamikazes into the weak side B gap to force the cutback, but it's Ed Oliver who anchors versus a combination block, peeks backside, then disengages and minimizes the gain. 2 plays later, the Cardinals utilize a 12 personnel grouping, but instead of being in a 2x2 set, they send a wide receiver out wide to form a 3x1 set. This puts the passing strength to the field or top of the screen, which puts the nickel defender, Johnson, to the top. On the snap, the tight ends leave Addison unblocked. He's the read man, so now the Cardinals have a hat on a hat out wide. The running back uses his eyes to lure Addison in. Addison doesn't stay square and chases the running back just a bit, which gives Murray the perimeter and a 15-yard touchdown. On the Cardinals' first play in the fourth quarter, Kingsbury goes back to their 2x2 12 personnel grouping. The Bills dial up a blitz, but the blitz is opposite of the run call of the Cardinals. Kingsbury dialed up a duo run call to get Drake on the perimeter. On the snap, the secondary rotates, which means corner Dane Jackson is backpedaling just as Drake hits the edge and gets up the sideline for a 20-yard gain. Duo means that the linemen and tight ends are blocking down. They are working combination blocks to the weak side linebacker, who on this play is Edmunds. Edmunds is also the read for the running back. The back comes downhill, so it draws Edmunds into his gap. The guard peels off and picks up Edmunds as Drake bounces it wide. The combination block by the tight ends on Murphy to Klein seal the edge for another explosive run by the Cardinals. Now that Kingsbury has the Bills' number, Frazier switches his front up for the next play by going to his bare front. The Cards run what appears to be their zone reads, so they leave Edmunds unblocked. He feathers as Murray gives it to Drake. Murphy reestablishes the line of scrimmage, but he's unable to disengage to make the tackle, and the back is able to pick up 8 yards on the play. The Cardinals quickly get up to the line on 2nd and 2 in a 3-by-1 set to the field, so the Bills align in their over front with the nickel corner on the line of scrimmage. They send a safety blitz from the boundary, but the center sees it from a mile away, and he sets the run blocking on the zone run, so the offense is able to block everyone up. Hughes gets caught peeking inside, and Drake bounces outside once again for a 7-yard gain. Chase Edmonds replaces Drake as the Cardinals go back to their power run to the strength of the formation. The Bills call a similar safety blitz, this time from the field. Klein contains the play, while Edmonds sifts through traffic to hold the running back to a 3-yard gain. 2 plays later, the Bills catch a break as the ball caroms out of Larry Fitzgerald's hands and into Poyer's for the interception. After a series chock full of penalties, the Bills punt it back to the Cardinals and force them to start the drive with their backs against their own goal line. The Cardinals boldly line up in their 2-by-2 formation and dial up a zone run. The Bills once again call a safety blitz from the field. Hughes and Jefferson slant inside as Hyde rushes off the edge. Edmonds comes downhill, attempts to retrace over the top of Hughes, but is slightly held. Luckily, Hyde is able to trip Drake up as he cuts it back. On the very next play, you guessed it, the same formation and this time a duo call similar to the one Drake broke off for a 20-yard gain earlier. Leslie Frazier switches to his bear front and his counter punch works. And it works because the tight ends aren't able to execute a combination block because of how quickly Poyer comes downhill. Therefore, the tight end isn't able to help his teammate gain better leverage on Edmonds. Edmonds does a great job of keeping the tight end at arm's length until he disengages and makes a tackle. The short tackle forces 3rd and 1. With the clock under 6 minutes and running, and the Bills still down 3 points, the defense needs to make another stop. So Frazier sells out. He sends a 0 blitz, and his play call works. The defensive linemen slant inside as the Bills send Klein and Johnson off the edges. Hughes is left unblocked, and he crashes on the running back so Murray keeps it. Klein takes an angle towards the tight end, but then avoids the block. Soon after the mesh, Murray catches a glimpse of Klein and realizes that he doesn't have the perimeter run to the boundary. So he reverses field, but Hyde and White get into the action, and Hyde is able to corral Murray for a 6-yard loss. The Bills' defense once again gave their offense a shot. Unfortunately, on the very first play of the Bills' ensuing drive, Elam holds the ball half a click too long, and the Cardinals get the ball back. On their first play, they send out a 2-by-2, 12 personnel formation and attempt to fool the Bills. With 4:38 left in the game, and 12 straight runs out of this personnel grouping, the home team attempts a play-action kill shot. They fake the run, then fake the bubble screen to Fitzy and attempt to get Hopkins deep, similar to a play they showed earlier. But White doesn't take the cheese. The Bills align in their bear front, and the blitz by Klein up the middle disrupts the timing of the play. Murray has to get rid of it much earlier than he wanted to. The Bills blitz the next 2 plays to force a punt, and it's on that drive that Allen showed he has ice in his veins. Leslie Frazier and the Bills defense traded blows with Kliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals offense. Kingsbury used 12 personnel to gain control of the game, but the Bills defense adjusted and gave their young QB the shot he needed to win the game. But it was the Cardinals who got the final knockout.